Hello, 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 everybody. It's Kenny Overton here on another episode of Black Opera Live. Welcome, welcome. Come on into the room. Everybody, come on into the room. I am so excited on this evening, September 28th, 2020. Y'all have no idea how excited I am. I'm going to try not to make a whole fool of myself because I am overwhelmed with joy and pride, and I'm humbled and grateful that these four incredible giants have decided to graciously join me on this show tonight. I have four of the men who have inspired me the most here on this panel to talk about their lives, to talk about their careers, their journeys, and to talk about one of the things that they all helped me with, and that's with the role of Porgy, baby. My goodness, it's a lot of years and a lot of knees on this panel tonight. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about these fellas before we get started. Donnie Ray Albert, Louisiana native, and the 1972 Louisiana State University graduate Donnie Ray Albert began his operatic career after completing his Master's of Vocal Performance degree from Southern Methodist University in 1975. For 13 years, Mr. Albert performed as a bass baritone before switching to baritone in 1988, and his 40-plus career has taken him to some of the world's greatest opera houses and concert halls. Highlights include Scarpia and Tosca in Portland, and New York City Opera, Atlanta, Gießen, and Aida, Amonasro in Washington, D.C., and Cologne, and Boston, and Montreal, and the Stade de France, Nabucco in Vancouver, Florentine Opera, La Scala, Rigoletto in Miami, New York City Opera, Mannheim, Vancouver, Otello, Iago in Sacramento, Kentucky Opera, Hamburg, Un Ballo in Maschera, Renato in Chicago Lyric, and Los Angeles. Listen, I'm exhausted from Donnie Ray's resume already. And he has graciously agreed to join us tonight. So he's here backstage, and I'm excited. All right, who's next? Oh, Alvy Powell is here. Alvy Powell is here. Has won acclaim, Alvy Powell, for his performances in the United States and abroad, both as a soloist with the United States Army Chorus and in independent vocal performances. He has become one of the world's best-known interpreters of Gershwin's Porgy and has performed the role. Wait a minute, are my eyes seeing this number right? Over 2,500 times? Have mercy, God. Okay, he's performed other major baritone roles in Le Notte di Figaro, Madame Butterfly, La Bohème, Turandot, and many, many others. He debuted at Carnegie Hall as Joe in a concert production of Showboat in 2008 and returned to the hall in January in 2009 for a concert performance of Porgy. Mr. Powell has performed for President George Ford's family at his request. And on the opera stage, he has appeared as Bartolo from Notte di Figaro with the Virginia Opera and Sharpless, in Butterfly with Connecticut Opera, and Colline and Bohème with Tulsa Opera. And his oratorio repertoire includes Handel's Messiah, Beethoven's Ninth, Mendelssohn's Elijah, Rossini's Stabat Mater, and the Brahms Requiem. And Mr. Powell is the recipient of the National Medal of Arts bestowed upon him by President Barack Obama. See, I'm not playing with y'all on tonight with the folks in this room. He backstage too. Get yourselves together. Okay. Gordon Hawkins is critically acclaimed throughout the world for his in-depth interpretations and lush baritone voice. A dramatic baritone with an international reputation as Rigoletto, Mr. Hawkins has delighted audiences as the tragic Verdi heroine underdog in more than 200 performances. My God, you hunched over more than 200 times? I can't. Okay. Most recently with the Deutsche Oper am Rhein, Vancouver Opera, Washington National Opera, Arizona Opera, and Opera Colorado. He is now earning critical acclaim as a Wagner specialist. Alberich was superbly realized by baritone Gordon Hawkins in his Los Angeles Opera debut. And despite wearing a grotesque puppet head and clunky boots that hobbled his movements, Hawkins delivered a sterling vocal characterization of the power mad Nibelung. That Opera News said that. So you can take that. Okay. Last season, Mr. Hawkins performed the role of Amonasro in Aida, with both Washington National Opera and Seattle Opera, Scarpia and Tosca with Arizona, and in concert sang the baritone solo in Mahler's Lieder eines fahrenden Gesellen. And Mr. Hawkins' career is shaped by performances of opera's most popular baritone roles in leading companies throughout the world. Listen, I've shared the stage with this brother and all of these brothers, and I can attest to all of this as being fact. We got the receipts. Mr. Arthur Woodley, my God. He has appeared with prestigious opera companies around the United States and abroad, including San Francisco Opera, Washington National Opera, Seattle Opera, L'Opéra de Montréal, Opera Philadelphia, Dallas Opera, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. This season, the American bass made his Metropolitan Opera debut in the roles, plural, of Lawyer Frazier in Porgy and Bess and Benoit Alcindoro in La Boheme. He also revives the role of Emile Griffith in Terence Blanchard's opera Champion at Michigan Opera Theater. Mr. Woodley was born in New York City and raised in St. Croix. He currently serves on the voice faculty at the New York University and resides really close to me in Montclair, New Jersey. So now that we have gotten all of that out the way, I'm going to just give y'all a little bit of evidence of the receipts that we have tonight. Hold on.
My name is Gordon Hawkins, and I'm singing the role of Nabucco. I think the Act 2 duet with Apagaida is some of the most beautiful music ever written. And it's also the first time that you actually get to see him pleading to a entity that's on that stage, that's in that form, in his family, someone that actually has influence, maybe a bit of, because of the situation, a bit of authority over him. And it's the first time that Nabucco pleads for something or someone outside of himself. Over the years, I've come to understand that when Verdi writes a certain dynamic marking, he's asking that singer to come up with an emotional justification for that dynamic, more than he's asking you to deliver a certain sonic experience. It has to have that emotional thermostat of pianissimo or mezzo forte or fortissimo, but it's the emotional palette that he's looking for, not the sound. And the music comes out of that dramatical text. In closing, I'd just like to thank you all. I encourage you to come and see this piece performed. It's rare. It is rare that any audience would have an opportunity to see Nabucco. We have two splendid casts. And I encourage you to come to see it because, honestly, it might be years, many years, before you'd have an opportunity to see this work with this quality and caliber of singers performed. So come.
let us nobly die, so that our precious blood shall not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defied shall be constrained to honor us wounded. O kinsman, we must meet our common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their thousand blows deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men, we'll face the murderous cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. If we must die, if we must die, if we must die. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and the bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I was going to say that one of
Hello, fellas. Hello, fellas. Hello, fellas.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I've been listening to y'all and getting free voice lessons all day long listening to y'all. I am so honored to have the four of you here at the same time. You all have meant so much to me. And I just wanted to celebrate you on this day and share with the rest of the folks out there in social media world. Four gentlemen that I know as royalty, operatic royalty. You all are the example of everything that I aspire to be as a man, as an artist, as a singer, as a colleague. You're just everything to me. So thank you for being here. And I celebrate you on this day.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. So, okay, let me go backwards. So, Alvy, I'm going to say this. The only person I ever want to hear sing the anthem again is Whitney Houston and you. Because you almost...
Well, I don't know if I'm in her class, but...
Oh, man, you in the class, brother. You in the class. Because, listen, you almost make me proud to be an American when I hear that. Almost.
Because that's real American. You heard a real American there. So
exactly.
You got reason to be proud.
So let me start. I'm gonna go in alphabetical order. So Donnie Ray, and just so you know, Donnie Ray, I in my own time affectionately refer to you as Uncle D Ray. So that's what when I'm talking about you, that's what I say. So
well, you are welcome to call me that, because all of my nephews and nieces call me that, and now I have grandchildren, so I'm Opa now.
I love it. I love it. So can you tell the folks where it all started for you? Where did you grow up, and how did classical music come into your life, or when did it come into your life?
It came in my life, into my life, actually early, when I was growing up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, right down the street and within a mile or 2 miles from Louisiana State University. My high school was halfway between. I could walk to, I walked many miles up to my elementary school and to my junior high school until I just couldn't walk anymore. But I heard the Metropolitan Opera, I suppose, when I was in junior high school, and started playing piano around that time. I had a Wallensock piano, a Wallensock recorder. And I remember I still have a recording of an Aida production from the Met that Martina sang Aida that particular year. And I still have that on. Actually, I've turned it into a CD because my tape was beginning to wear. So I learned from high school, from my high school music teacher, Malalu Caldwell Turner, found me. She knew that her partner in a piano studio played for my church, asked me to sing in the choir. I was on my way to football practice in high school, and she stopped me and my friend from going to football practice. She said, "Come in the room. I want you to audition for the choir." So we sang "My Country, 'Tis of Thee, Sweet Land of Liberty." And after we finished singing, she said, "You're hired. Put that into your choir for next, that you're going to take choir next semester." And when I got in, she started making me learn songs to participate in competitions. I won some, didn't win a whole lot, but I remember very, very clearly that when I was walking across stage, we had our graduation ceremony outdoors. My intention of going on to college was to go into possibly the medical field. And she stopped me as I received my diploma and was walking off the stage and said, "Whatever you do, don't let music out of your life."
Wow.
Think about it. I kept on walking. And it was because of her taking us to LSU during those years, 1968. There was a lot going on in 1968. That year, LSU would offer scholarships to students who won their rally. They had a rally, an in-state rally, that they actually asked all of the high schools to send its best students in all departments, in all areas, to the school. You did a competition, and it was that year that McKinley High School won the music phase of that rally, and we were all offered fee-exempt scholarships to the university. I was the only one who accepted it, but when I went in, I paid my fee. Everything was arranged. I think I only paid $50 to go to school my first year, maybe $100. Because the general fee was something like $60. So $110 a semester was what you paid to go to LSU in 1968. And it went up incrementally every year after that, of course. But after a year of chemistry and biology kicking my behind, I decided, well, I better go over to this music school and see if I still have a voice. And when I walked into the audition, the man who judged my solo competition as a bass, Dr. Forrest West, huge man who smoked a pipe, and he said, "Where have you been? Well, we were expecting you." And I said, "Well, I was on the other side of the campus, and it's not working out so well over there, so I decided to come over here." And he said, "Well, what do you want to sing?" And I said, "The only thing that I know from memory is Tchaikovsky's Pilgrim Song in English." And so he went, and the man who became my voice teacher, Victor Kleimish, said, "I have a copy of that upstairs." So they took a break, got the copy. I sang it perfectly. And they asked, who's going to take him into their studio? And Victor said, "I will." So that was the beginning of my starting off into the music career, singing as a bass, not knowing what to do. I didn't know what to do in the first voice lesson. I was just as dumb as some of the kids that I teach now. How to, and I let all of my students know that. I tell them this story because I know how difficult it is for you to come out of high school with no experience, no knowledge of what the career path that you're about to embark upon is going to present itself, how it's going to present itself. Why are you spending your money in the first place? I wasn't spending much, but why was I there in a predominantly white situation coming out of a predominantly black situation? My coaches in high school thought that I would try out for the football team, but in 1968, the SEC was not desegregated. So there wasn't a chance in hell that I was going to walk out on that field and get broken up like several of the young men who tried out during those days. Didn't last very long. It wasn't until my junior year that the SEC was integrated to a degree because of Alabama, Southern Cal. Everybody knows that story. So that's how I got into music. I won the competition and went on from there.
What about you, Gordon?
I got started in almost pretty. I bet you it's similar to most of the folks on this screen or listening. My daddy was a minister. I started in church. I really didn't. I mean, when your father's a minister, you don't have a whole lot to say. That was bad. I mean, we're AME, so church was from 8 in the morning until pretty close to 8 at night, and then there was, choir practice or other things going on during the week. So singing started for me there. Music, and my mom was. At that time, my mother was a school teacher, and I think she understood that she had 5 boys and 2 girls, and she understood that she needed to take an active role in shaping us, because left to our own devices, Lord knows what could happen. And probably not a whole lot would have happened with my father, but she felt that we should have, the arts in our life. So all of us played an instrument. I started taking clarinet lessons when I was 5. I wasn't a prodigy or anything like that. I did it because my older siblings did it. And we were growing up in a time in PG County, Maryland, where it was normal for kids to grow up both playing sports. Mine was baseball, playing sports, and being in music programs.
So it was how I grew up was the way that everybody around me, and I would say everybody around me, black and white for that matter, grew up. The public school system, there was music, there was choir, there was band, there was all-state choir, and I grew up in that environment. That was something that you did. That was something that all the family members did, the community did. I didn't become singled out in it. It didn't make that crossover for me until high school, my junior year. The choir room was right beside the cafeteria, and every time I walked down to go to the cafeteria, I heard the kids in there singing. And I hate to say this, but it's true. I heard them singing. I said, well, I'm better than that. Let me, but I didn't have the guts to do it because none of the kids in the choir looked like me in that, so I just kept going. So I guess I was with one of my baseball buddies or something, and I mouthed off, I can do that. And he said, well, you keep mouthing off, sure. So I walked in and they were singing Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven. And I said, I can do that. And at that time they were just viewing me like, the jock, why, you ain't one of us, why are you coming? And I sang Stairway to Heaven. And Charlie, the choir director, Charlie said, he did what Donnie said, you're going to sign up. You're going to take this class. So that's where it started for me.
Wow.
Somebody at that level validated me in an area that wasn't my typical area. My typical area was ball, and and if I was doing music, I was doing it privately. It wasn't a public display thing. Charlie was the first guy to validate me in a public display.
Wow.
And so I went to college again. Again, it's very similar to what Donnie said. I went on an athletic scholarship for baseball, integrated University of Maryland. Me and Cliff Parker, 76. We were the first blacks to get baseball scholarships at the University of Maryland. Get there. I was doing my baseball thing. Music wasn't on the radar because I got a scholarship and all that stuff. I blew out a rotator cuff. And that was real bad, Kenny, because I got drafted by the Texas Rangers out of high school. That's what I was going to do. So that ended. I didn't know what else to do. And I remembered liking music. So I walked on up to the top of the hill, the Taj Music Hall, and auditioned. And I was raw as all get out. But Fake Springman was given the singers that nobody else wanted to teach, and Fag took me, and I started studying with him, and then I started climbing the ladder into productions and stuff, and sort of found my way. It was not by design, but not even close to design. It just sort of, it was something that I enjoyed doing, and I was good at it, but I didn't think that I was going to pay you to make a living doing this. So that's kind of how I started.
Wow. What about you, Arthur?
Wow. I think you're right. I think it all started the same way. Church was it. You sang in the church choir. And I did that for so many years and everything else, never thinking, of course, that this was going to happen. That I had no idea about it as a profession or anything like that. So it started that way until I got to college. High school, I sang in the choir in high school as well. And it got to college, and that was when I joined the choir there. And that was when that professor said to me, you got a really nice voice. Said, did you ever think of? No. Would you like to try it? I don't know. Well, we're doing this production of Kurt Weill's Johnny, you can't remember the name of the thing right now. Not down the valley. But anyway, It was a Kurt Weill piece. And he says, there's a lead role in there for you. If you'd like it, I teach it to you and everything else and what have you. And that more or less was it. That was the beginning of it for me. I went on, I did it. We went up to upstate New York with the production of it. And they gave me a whatchamacallit. They gave me a honorable mention or something, you know, who's who in college and all of this other stuff from that. And then he continued after me and said, did you ever, I know you're in biology, just like Brother D. Ray, you know, I know you're in biology and everything else, but why don't you take see if you can take a year off? You live in a certain area of the Bronx, South Bronx, and I think we can get you a scholarship. I think we can get you a scholarship to study abroad. Study abroad where? In Italy. Oh, yeah. And more or less that was it. That was the beginning. The only thing that I had to do was I had to learn arias and stuff like that. So I had a coach teach me syllable by syllable. De vieni alla finestra. And I can't remember what the other piece was. They thought I was a baritone at that point. And I learned these two pieces, and I went over to Italy and auditioned over there. And a woman by the name of Clotilda D'Angelo Ronchi became my voice teacher. And really and truly, that was the beginning of all of this. Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Dr. Powell? Alvy, you with us? Oh,
I don't think so. Yeah.
He might be frozen. Okay.
No,
All right.
I think it's just the
connection.
Is a connection. Okay. Well, we can pivot. So I hear all of you talking about the different voice types from bass to bass baritone to baritone, and your repertoire crisscrosses like all of those things. Like, did you settle on one, or were you forced to settle on one when your career started? Did either teachers or intendants or conductors or agents make you choose? How did you settle on what to call yourself? Take it, D. Ray.
Well, I think that I called myself a bass out of LSU, wanting to learn more because I wasn't prepared to sing professionally or any other way coming out of undergraduate school. I did a lot. My voice teacher would not allow me to do a lot of competitions. He said competitions are for horses. So you want to get a job. So try to audition and see where you can get a job. I went on to graduate school. He wanted me to stay at LSU and work on my master's and get a doctorate, a DMA. I wanted to get away from Baton Rouge. I wanted to get out of my mother and father's house and go someplace else. I applied to a bunch of schools. I got married 2 days after I graduated from LSU.
Wow.
Because my wife already had finished her master's degree at Stanford and was offered a job actually both in San Francisco and in Dallas. She accepted the one in Dallas, and I accepted the scholarship to Southern Methodist University. I'm glad I did because it allowed me an opportunity to grow vocally, mentally, to grow up and be in an environment where I was performing all of the time. I went from a large institution where I was performing to a small institution where I was performing, and I was it. I was the only bass. There were a couple of baritones, but I also did a lot of choral singing. So I had Lloyd Fouch in graduate school as a choral director. I had Dallas Draper in undergraduate school. So I did a lot of choral singing. And that just helped to mature me more and get me ready for a lot of performing in Dallas, in the Dallas area. Once I got that scholarship, I had to pay for the scholarship by performing a lot. So I was being sent to country clubs and other places just to show off what SMU had in its vocal department. And being the only Black there at the time, it was a different atmosphere. I had two very good voice teachers in Bruce Foote, who sang for years at the WGN Chicago broadcast, and I had Thomas Tibbet Hayward, the cousin to Lawrence, my voice teacher as well. And between those two men, they gave me a lot of experience as to what to expect, how to develop my technical abilities to get through whatever I needed to do. It took time. I always tell people that coming out of graduate school at 26 years old and jumping into Houston Grand Opera's Treemonisha and Fanchula del West, and then all of a sudden a Porgy and Bess. I did do my apprenticeships at Wolf Trap. I did 2 apprenticeship years at Wolf Trap, which was enormous. It gave us a whole lot of exposure at meeting a whole lot of great singers. It was, I tell students now that don't expect an overnight success. You have to take time and develop. Get your technique in order before you move on to just about anything that you're going to do. And you do those Mozart roles early on, and the early music, the Handel, the Haydn oratorios, and the repertoire counts a lot early like that. And I was doing a lot of that. And I think the choral singing got me involved and pointed me in the right direction early enough. But as Arthur said, everything goes back to church. I mean, you remember what you did in church, and you were learning all of those hymns. And fortunately, you wind up singing in choirs in college, if that's where and that sort of gives you a notion, because I didn't hear an opera until my senior year at LSU. Don Giovanni in New Orleans with Justino Diaz and Jimmy Bainey with Leporello. I shall never forget that performance as long as I'm Black. An enormous, that's what kickstarted me. That's when I said, wow, I think that's what I really want to do. Because it was just, it was fascinating. It was thrilling. It was a packed house. The nuns sat in the upper balcony, and you just saw people of all colors and all races at the opera in New Orleans. And that's why I went to graduate school, to get better. And also get a master's degree. If I couldn't make it as a singer, I was going to have to teach somebody how to.
I know that's right. So, Arthur, I hear you said you started out as a baritone, and then when did the shift down or out happen?
Actually, I was never a baritone.
Oh, okay.
I really was never really a baritone. That's what they were thinking, because they could hear some high notes. They could hear the a little bit of the high notes. So they thought that's what I was. But really and truly, when push came to shove, I was a bass baritone, and then came another shift later on in my career. Later in my career, I was singing a Verdi aria or something of that, from, I think it was from Nabucco or something of that sort. I was singing that, and my agent Caroline was there, and all she said at that point was Then I went on to do Zarastro at Boston Lyric, I think it was, and I was did the Zarastro with the low E's and all of this other stuff. And she came to me And she said to me, she says, look, she says, you've got this great range. She says, but when you hit a certain part of your voice, all of a sudden, it just kind of, it opens. It opens. And she said to me, she said, you're not a bass baritone. You have you've got all that bottom. You're not a bass baritone. You're a lyric bass. You're a basso cantabile, which strangely was one of the things that I was told when I first started out in my career by Ronchi, that she thought that's what I was going to end up to be. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm a bass.
Gotcha. Alvy, you back with us? Alvy.
I see him.
I wrote to him. I don't know if he can get let's start talking.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
The internets.
Yeah.
Should we send them a smoke signal?
I think we need.
I don't have his private number, or else I would write.
All right, so Gordon, fill me in on your voice, because you make me mad with your easy high notes and stuff. Like, were you always a baritone like that, or was there a shift, or what's going on, brother?
I was always a scared baritone.
Scared of what? What you scared of?
High notes.
Yeah.
I was one of those guys that I always had the high notes during auditions, and because having to prove myself in front of people I didn't know made me anxious. And I think, but I always had them, right? So there was a psychological barrier. I guess. And I could always manipulate the top, but that's not the same thing as having a top that's integrated into your body and it's part of your breath. But I could always manipulate it. And there was a guy in Washington, D.C. who taught it at Catholic University.
Yeah.
Michael Cordovana. And Michael Cordovana, a great Italian coach, a great coach. Yeah. And my teacher at the university thought it'd be a good idea for me to. There he goes. Tell him to talk. Oh, is he going?
You here? All right. We got you back. We got you back. All right.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Why don't I let my brother talk, and then I'll jump back on in.
All right. Yeah. So while we got you, Alvy, so take us back to the start. Like, how'd you get started? Where'd you grow up? How did this classical music come into your life, brother?
Okay. This is in and out, I guess. I'm losing connection every now and then. But if you can hear me now, I grew up near Cape Charles, Virginia, on the eastern shore of Virginia, a fishing and farming town, which is why I'm so much into fishing and very proud boat owner. My older sister sang to me when I was 4 years old, and she had the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard. So after that, I just kept singing, trying to sing like her and everything. And I think she would have been the professional vocalist, but she had cancer and she lost an arm. And I think after that, she decided she did not want to be in public singing. However, she still sings and sings quite well in church. I had my first set of carpenter tools at 4 years old. Dad was a carpenter. He built the house that we grew up in and several houses in the community. I liked singing growing up, but I was going to be a carpenter. Okay. And then when I reached 12th grade of high school, I had this choral teacher who said, there is this group that goes to Europe every year at Shenandoah Conservatory of Music. And she said, I went there and I think you should audition to go. And I was like, well, okay, if you think so, And I did, make a long story short. I made it and ended up singing in 11 countries in Europe at 18 with a group of 50.
Wow.
I was the only African American there. Okay.
Wow.
And after that, I was talked into going to school at Shenandoah and went there for a semester, and then went on to Virginia State, where I met Ms. Undine Moore. And from Virginia State, she sent me to Indiana University and went there, studied with Camilla Williams.
Wow.
Went on, my dad was ill, and so I decided I needed to come back to the East Coast. So I came back to the East Coast, and then I guess I got married somewhere in there. I got married, you know, moved to New Jersey, and my then wife said to me, well, you know, George Shirley lives here, and he has a school in Upper Montclair.
Right.
So he said, we got in touch with him, and because I needed to study with someone. And to make a long story short, I asked him at 24 years old, I said, listen, do you think I'm wasting my time? I said, because I have other skills. I can do other things, but I need to know now if I'm going to continue with this. And he said, not if you're willing to work hard. And so I said, okay. So I continued. He was teaching down at University of Maryland. That's how I got down to that part of the world. Went to University of Maryland there for a little while. Met Gordon Hawkins. And we actually did an opera together, if you remember Gordon. I think it was Don Giovanni. And is that right?
It was one of the Mozart ones.
Was it what?
It was one of the Mozart ones. I think it was.
Yeah. Well, I was the commendatore.
Okay.
You know, and I think you were Don Giovanni, weren't you?
That's
anyway.
how old I am, Alvy. My mind is gone.
Yeah. Well, that was a long time ago. Okay. So from there, I was doing some dinner theater and Showboat, Singing Joe, and a guy who was playing in the orchestra said to me, "Look," he said, "I'm in the field band here in Maryland, and there's an opening for baritone. I think you would be you'd have a great opportunity." I said, "Excuse me, do you mean join the Army?" I said, "I don't think so." No. He said, "No, wait, listen, let me explain." He said, "Let me explain." He explained the whole thing, ran it down to me, said, "All you do is sing. That's your job." I said, "Well, what about having to go from base to base every 3 years or what?" He said, "No, it's a 30-year commitment or however long you want to stay until you either age out or whatever." And so I went over and auditioned. And they told me, "Well, you did pretty good, but we're going to keep it open and hear some other people." I took that to mean that they weren't really interested. So I went back to Mr. Shirley and I said, "Well, guess what I did this week?" And I told him what I did. He said, "Well, you went to the wrong place." And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Well, you should have gone to the organization that I was in." I said, "You in the Army?" He said, "Yes, I was in the United States Army Corps, and I was the first African American, 1957, I believe." And he said, "As a matter of fact, I think some of the guys are still there." So let me call over and see. And so he called over, and of course, they all knew who he was. And there were one or two that were still there. And they said, "Well, George, if you're sending somebody, we're going to hear them, but we don't have any slots, but we're going to hear them anyway. Send them over." So I went over and I did the audition. And this is 1983, actually. And they said, "Okay, would you wait outside?" And I'm thinking, why wait? You said you didn't have any slots, right? So I'm on my way out the door and somebody grabs me and grabs my hand and says, "Congratulations." And I said, for what? They said, "You're in." I said, I thought you didn't have any slots. They said, we just made one.
Yeah.
So that's what started my career in the United States Army Chorus.
Wow.
That was 1983. I got my first opportunity to sing Porgy in 1987. Okay.
Where was that?
Going back though, if I may, that was in Australia. Remember
Okay.
Gordon?
I remember that one. I do remember.
Yes, you did. We were there. You sang the role also. But
I remember we almost had a revolt,
the
and
first
we almost
time that
left at the same day. You remember that?
the first time I sang, I heard Porgy and Bess was junior high school in the library, and there was this very colorful album, right, with this lady standing in a red dress and this man on his knees looking up at her. And of course, it was Leontine Price and William Warfield. And I said, "What is this? I had never seen anything like this in our library." Yep. And I put that thing on. I missed the next 3 classes. I checked the album out. I took it home. I didn't bring it back until the end of the semester. I learned everything on there at 14 years old. I could not sound like him, but I could sing all the notes. And I just fell in love with it. And that was my introduction to Porgy and Bess. And I thought, wow, that is so wonderful. And then skip into 1987, I went on a cattle call for the ensemble. And the only reason I did that was because someone told me that the conductor and director for the Washington Opera were the 2 people that were going to be listening to people. And they had never heard me, and this would be an opportunity for them to at least hear me. So I went on a cattle call. I have never seen anything like this in my life. I walked into the Kennedy Center, and there must have been 200 to 300 men. They did the men one day and the women the next day. All out in this hallway, just as crowded as you could imagine. One man had on a straw hat with a harmonica to audition for Porgy and Bess. People came from California. This was the opening of the 3rd leg of the Spoleto Festival, and it was going to be in Australia. And I went in, in a chorus cattle call, and went. They had me sing a little. They didn't want to hear but about 30 seconds and move on to the next person. I started singing, and they said, well, okay, look on the board, and your name may be on the board for the callback. So my name was on the board. I went back, and they said, well, have you ever sang Porgy? And I said, well, no, I've sung Crown. And they said, well, okay, we think we'd like for you to do be a cover for Porgy. And I said, well, does that mean that I'll get to go on? They said, possibly. I said, are you interested? I said, possibly. And I did that because I did not think that the Army, this was for 5 weeks. And I didn't think the Army was going to let me go for 5 weeks to do this, to sing in another ensemble. I just didn't think they were going to do it. So to make a long story short, I went back, did the audition again, the 2nd leg. And that's what they said. We want you to cover the role of Porgy. And I left there on cloud 9. 3 days later, I get a call from Randy Malden, who has since passed, who said, okay, Alvy, are you sitting down? I said, why? Do I need to? He says, we don't just want you to cover Porgy. We want you as one of the Porgies. And that's how I got to do my first Porgy.
Wow. Amazing.
Anything else you want to know?
Definitely.
The Army, through the military, though, I will tell you, I have entertained 9 presidents. Okay. And we won't even go on to talk about the kings and the queens. Yeah. 9.
So let me ask you about what was it like getting the National Medal of Arts put around your neck by President Obama? Tell me what that's like.
Wow.
I don't know where you got that, sir. I have to be honest with you. I don't know where you read that. That did not
No,
happen to me.
it did not.
No, no.
Somebody got your
That's
materials
just who
wrong.
I am. I
Delete.
guess so. It was not me.
Uh-oh.
I met President Obama several times, but that did not happen to me.
Uh-oh.
The
I
only
know who did
award
it.
that I can remember getting is I was nominated for an Image Award for Porgy.
For the City Opera production.
No, for
No,
Houston Grand Opera's production when they did it
for
in LA.
Houston. Aha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know who did it. I'll tell you when we get off the air who did it, so you can fix that.
Okay.
Now,
Oh.
Gordon, back to you fronting and lying about you scared of somebody's high notes. Everything I heard you sing is high. So when did it not become so scary anymore?
Officially, I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I got to say that, I did a lot of concert work as well.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff is, a lot of the Mahler stuff and a lot of the Handel stuff is quite high. And a lot of the recital and concert rep that I was doing was quite high. When you're singing opera, it's not that the tessitura is any higher, but for some reason the turf, the ego, the positions and all of that stuff, the quote unquote opera, there's a thing attached to it. And I think for a while it was just easier for me to just sort of coast as a bass baritone, or to coast as that Marcello baritone as opposed to that Rigoletto Trovatore baritone. It wasn't until I left New York, left the Met, I think, did the Pavarotti competition and worked some with Maestro Pavarotti there and Pesaro. So I think when I went to Europe and started to just do those roles, you know what I mean? Just actually put the sweat equity in of performing them, not learning them. Learning them, you do. But performing them, you have to show yourself, just like Porgy. You have to show your body and your voice has to show itself how to negotiate through it. And when I went to Germany and started singing in Berlin and started singing in Dusseldorf and some of the other cities, my body showed my voice what it needed to do. And if you have a little bit of success doing it and building on it, then your confidence grows. So my confidence grew exponentially. I think I could always have done it, but at that time, if you're in your late 20s and you're a baritone, you're not going to get 20 and 30 performances of Rigoletto. Not in the States. So when I left and started working in Europe, I was getting 20 and 30 performances of those roles. And all you need, I think I'll just say what I needed. What I needed was an opportunity to work it out on the stage. It's if you're in the States and you're doing 6 or 7 performances of a big role, then each one of them becomes Herculean, as opposed to if you're doing 20 or 30 performances of something. And that's what happened in my case. By the time my nerves had worked it out, by the time I was, I would say, in my early 30s.
Yeah.
But I needed that time on. I needed an opportunity to meet with. I had a good conductor, John Fiore, who was the general music director in Dusseldorf at the time. To be able to work it out with someone who really knew how to help you work it out. That's all I needed.
And folks, here's a little bit of evidence. I'm known as a receipt carrier, so catch this.
Beautiful. Oh,
Bruh.
Beautiful.
Like, really? Really, man?
You know,
Very nice. Wow.
I love that. I love Lieder. I love German Lieder. All music is music, right?
Yeah.
If you love music, then you can make music.
Absolutely.
I learned to love music in church, but my love for music transfers, right? So for me,
some things are more suited for certain ways.
Huh?
I hear church in that when you sing
I was
that.
saying I
hear...
just think some repertoire is.
Yeah. It's the love is church.
I hear it in that. I hear it in that Mahler. I hear church in that. You don't get it from everybody.
No.
A lot of people just sing notes.
No.
You know, but that's an experience. And that's the thing with all of you that I've learned from is that when y'all sing and y'all perform, it's an experience. It's you take the notes off the page and you give the folks an incredible experience. And Arthur, the last time the last two times I heard you sing, twice was at the Met in Bohème and in Porgy, but for Jesse Norman's show for the Sister Retta Jones project, you sang so beautifully, and I just wanted to just sit there and take notes. Like, how do you do that? What is it in you that allows you to express and take the notes and the words off the page? Because it sounds like you're not thinking about technique, you're not thinking about where to place and do this and do that. How do you get to that point?
You embrace it all. You embrace the song. You embrace the melody. You embrace the intent of the piece. And you put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
That hopefully allows you to surround yourself with that piece. Focus, in essence, on that piece. And then everything else disappears. I don't worry about anything, but I'm going to take a breath now and I'm going to sigh. I'm going to sigh. I'm not going to try to make a big sound. I'm just going to sigh. I'm going to go for the intention of the song. That's why I'm here. I'm here to interpret that song. I'm here to take you on a 3-minute, 5-minute, whatever it is, little voyage and touch you. hopefully touch you with words and the beauty of the music that this man or this woman, whomever has written, and forget all the other stuff. Just that's it.
Wow. And your repertoire is so varied. Like you go from Rossini to Verdi to Mozart and everybody and to 20th century works and everything in between. And so of course I have another receipt, and I found this one just by digging and digging and digging and digging. So I found this particularly incredible. Watch this.
All right.
Già di solito all'ore del peso, agitare a cantare mi steso, un ignoto suave contento, trasporta a brillare mi fa. Un ignoto suave contento mi trasporta e brillare mi fa. Un ignoto suave contento mi trasporta e brillare mi fa. Voi dite, non più m'annoiate, tu fa secco e colpie, obbedite, fa secco, obbedite. Voi la vela al mio seno guidate, ma prestate a onorare la beltà. Voi la vela al mio seno guidate, ma prestate a onorare la beltà. Sì, la beltà, sì, la beltà, ma prestate a onorare la beltà. Fuoco al trasporto al desidio non resiste l'acceso col mio, questo caro trionfo novello quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà. Al mio fuoco al trasporto al desidio non resiste l'acceso col mio, questo caro trionfo novello quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà. Quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà, sarà quest'alma sarà. Quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà, sarà quest'alma sarà. Quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà, quanto dolce a quest'alma sarà.
Listen, man. Like, come on, man. Like, how do you do that and make it so beautiful and it looks so effortless? Like, really? Now I got to get off this interview and go practice. Are you serious?
Oh man, that was fun. It's fun.
So
yeah, with Stephanie Blythe. Yeah, my baby.
With Stephanie Blythe. Yeah. Hey, Stephanie. Yeah. Wow, that was incredible, man. Yeah, so I found out all of your Italian connections from last night. Like you would have to be really like fluent in Italian to not only sing it that well, but sing it that beautifully and still be funny on top of it.
Yeah, I think those years that I spent in Italy really, made a mark on me, and it just, it falls trippingly upon the tongue. Let's say, it feels good. It just feels good. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So let me ask you. You all know that you all are like inspirations and mentors to me. I want to know who inspired you when you were coming up. Who did you look to? Who did you listen to? Who did you want to pattern your career after? Like who got you going?
I'm gonna jump in.
Jump on in.
Because he knows. He knows. Right now, brother D. Ray, I was an undergrad when Alvy and I were both at Maryland. I was an undergrad when this man, and I was the hot thing then, right? I was doing my little baritone stuff. I was special. And this man came and did I guess it was an Informants.
Yeah.
Columbia artist. He came in and an informant is a performance, but you also give information. And that man was Brother Donnie Ray Albert. And he sang the aria from, was it Mephistopheles, where he talked about the golden calf, and then he talked, and it's 2 verses, it's strophic, right? So Donnie gets up and Donnie does this thing, and he sings the first one in the nail in there. And during the orchestral interlude, the piano interlude, Donnie breaks character and looks at us and goes, and this is where Mephistopheles twirls his magic and makes everybody go insane. And then goes right back into the second strophe. When he finished talking, I was like, that's it. That's it. That's me. That was me.
Oh,
Wow.
That was me.
yeah.
What about you, D. Ray?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know what to say after that. Gordon has told me this because I was an affiliate artist. Affiliate Artists was a corporation in New York that hired people in the performing arts to go out into communities and perform and to establish what it was they did, and it was in communication with whatever arts organization there was. That particular time, I did 7 weeks in Washington, D.C., and I performed at nursing facilities, schools, churches, St. Elizabeth Psychiatric Hospital, both Lorton facilities for the prison facilities for adults as well as for young people. It was an experience and a half, but during that time, I didn't know Gordon, had not met him. I sang at Morgan State, I believe, and that's when I did Catholic University. I did a lot of universities, and I didn't know what type of groundwork I was setting because the job that I was there to perform in was canceled by the Washington Opera. The Washington Opera, the symphony orchestra went on strike. I was supposed to do Monteroni or Sparfucile in Rigoletto. And I was basing all of what I had to say in my performances around, y'all come to this opera because this is what you will see me doing. And then it was canceled. So I was thinking all over the place. And so I had to reevaluate. Jillian Cookson was my pianist. And we had to somewhat reevaluate the way we were performing, what we were saying, and how to go about changing the direction of why I was there. It was a wonderful experience. I got paid $1,000 a week, housing and everything. And Harlan Blackwell was in school at Catholic University, and Harlan hits me with that one periodically. And who was it? Somebody else. I'm missing somebody. My brother over at Morgan State.
Kevin Short.
Kevin was Kevin was at Morgan State. So all of these young people were in school, and I'm an old man going around. Well, I was a young man going around. I had already done Porgy back in those days. And that was sort of like the highlight of my getting out into a community, singing at churches. And as I said, everything that you could possibly, I think I even did a mall, which was probably the worst performance venue that you'd ever want to perform in. But I'm thankful that it laid some type of groundwork for people like Harlan, like Gordon. I always tell Gordon he reminds me of my younger brother because their mannerisms are quite similar in a lot of ways, and both of them are big and just as handsome as I am. So, so I let him go on a lot of things. But yeah, those early experiences, mine was learning Porgy from William Warfield.
Wow.
When I was asked to do it by Frank Rizzo, who was working in Chicago at the time, but Frank and I knew each other from Wolf Trap because he's one of the causes that when I did an audition for Wolf Trap to do my apprenticeship years there, Frank was in my corner in a lot of ways. And when the opportunity came up to do a Porgy, I'd already performed in Houston, but Frank told me that David Gockley is wanting to do a production of Porgy and Bess, and you should do it. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not sure about that because what I knew about Porgy was that it sat high vocally. And I had the recordings of Bill Warfield as well as Todd Duncan. And Todd Duncan was a high baritone. I mean, he could sing B flats and Bs on top during his singing career, enormous. And I told David Gockley, no, I didn't think that I wanted to do it. And out of the blue at dinner time one night, Frank called my apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. I was performing with Memphis Opera Theater at the time, touring with Memphis Opera Theater, Southern Opera Theater. And he almost cursed me out over the telephone saying, what do you mean you're not going to accept that role? He's sending you the music, you learn it, they're going to pay for you to go to New York and study with Bill Warfield.
Wow.
I spent a week with him in his brownstone every day. Stephen Blyer played the piano.
Right.
There for each one of my coaching sessions, at least an hour or close to 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. By Friday, I had it memorized cold, sang through the whole roll nonstop. When we finished, Uncle Bill was sitting at the table sobbing. He was weeping. And I said, oh my God, I've not done a very good job of selling this to him or myself. I was really, and he didn't say anything. He wasn't saying anything. He was just crying. And then all of a sudden, he became composed and he said, I think you're ready to just go out and do it. You need to do it. So with his blessings, I went out. That rehearsal period was in Houston, and the heat of summer was just terrifying, the first rehearsal, because some of the people, Abraham Lindo Quendo, Clamadeo, a lot of people had already been rehearsing it in New York prior to my meeting anybody. So to meet everybody that first rehearsal in the Rice Rittenhouse Hotel upper floor and to sing through it with everybody up there with climaxes happening after every voice sang, it was the most thrilling feeling that I had ever experienced, you know. And wow. I had been on stage with Beverly Sills and back up at Wolf Trap and done all of these other things. But when I heard all of those Black voices singing, my heart started pounding fast, and I said, I'm going to have to do some keeping up, and get in the ball game and stay alive, you know. And I was 26 years old at the time.
Wow.
And, I thought to myself, Bill was, I think, in his early 30s, and so was Todd Duncan when Gershwin asked him to do the role. And it was a challenge for me to be that young and to stay on course to be on all the time, in every rehearsal, not hold back, because they say you have to pace yourself. Well, you know, in those hot, humid summers, we rehearsed that summer in a high school auditorium basketball gym.
Ooh, in Houston, Texas.
No air conditioning. And when I look at pictures of myself back then, I lost a lot of weight. I was as thin as I had ever been, because we were working hard every single day before we did it. And there were there were just the two Porgies, Abraham Lindo-Quendo and me. And the Besses were Clamadale and Irene Oliver. So we, when I think back on those things, I always relate to Bill's words to me, because he always had stories to tell about every production that, you know, he had done way more performances and so had Mr. Duncan had done a whole lot of performances. And Alvy, I don't know how you did 2,500, but you somebody.
I don't know that I did 2,500. It was probably more like 1,500.
Okay.
I don't know, but wait a minute. That includes concert. You know, every time I sang "Bear Shoe Is My Woman," it includes, you know, it's not just the 4 performances. So I'll say that.
Okay.
Well, let me interject, if I may. Donnie Ray, now I first met you also at University of Maryland, and you challenged me. You were there doing a Messiah, Handel's Messiah, and I sat in on your rehearsal, and I wanted to meet you. I already knew about the Houston recording and all that, and I came up to you, introduced myself, and you said, "Well, young man, how old are you?" And I said, "I'm 26. And you said, "Well, let me see." Now, when I was 26, I was already doing Porgy with Houston Grand Opera. So what are you going to do? You probably don't remember that. So
not at all.
That was an inspiration for me right there. I want you to know that.
Wow.
I want you to know that. And then we got to work together in Canada, I believe it was. You did Porgy concert and I did Crown. You remember that? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but
that's when I was really,
since you were asking about.
Oh yeah, I said this man he's got some pipes on him. You know, nobody can do Crown, and not everybody can do a Crown. But we did that concert. You were it.
Wow. Now, Arthur.
Thank you, sir, and I thank you for your instruction at that time too.
My pleasure.
Now, so, Arthur, tell me, who were some of your idols or mentors or inspirations growing up and led you to where you are now?
Well, people like Paul Robeson, and would listen to him.
Absolutely.
What I call the simplicity of his delivery. Simon Estes, who helped me a great deal, got me over to Europe, and helped the beginning of that career, of that part of the career to go to. I think, those are the main people that I really truly listened to, and everything else. And of course, those are the brothers and everything else. But then, then I had to listen to, because I was in the land of, so, you would listen to Siepi, you would listen to all of the Pinza. Yeah, that's especially my voice teacher in Italy would always tell me, listen to Pinza, listen to Pinza. And so these are the people that I listened to, I had in my ear and everything else. I knew I wasn't going to get there yet, because they always cautioned me to go slow. But those are the people that were in my ear. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, there's another role too, besides Porgy, that you played a very large part in my career for, and that is Stephen Kumalo in Lost in the Stars.
Oh wow, yeah.
I
Wow.
listened to when I was learning it, I listened to your recording, and it's just incredible. Just incredible. I mean, and I felt like, Todd Duncan handed you the torch, and then you in your own way handed it to me, and it was just, I stole a lot of your isms and put it in mine and mixed it around a little bit. So thank you for that.
That's it. And what comes out is total Kenneth Overton.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's pretty damn good.
For real.
Now, Uncle D-Ray, you sent me a recording that I did not know existed, because I didn't know that you had ever sung this before. And then when I listened to it, I was like, well, good God Almighty, what can this man not do? Y'all, check this out.
Here's Donnie Ray Albert to sing Old Man River.
Better ask old River what he thinks. He knows all about them boys. He knows all about everything. There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I'd like to be. What does he care if the world's got troubles? What does he care if the land ain't free? Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling, he keeps on rolling along. He don't plant taters, he don't plant cotton, and them that plants 'em is soon forgotten. But Old Man River, he just keeps rolling along. You and me, we sweat and strain, body all aching and racked with pain. Tote that fudge, lift that veil, get a little drunk, and you land in jail. I get weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living and scared of dying. But Old Man River, he just keeps rolling
What a voice. Great, Donnie. Terrific. Donnie Ray Albert.
And the rolling stuff. Are you?
I was surprised that was out there. That shocked me. First of all, when I saw that I was that thin in 1982. So it.
And
just. What'd you say, Gordon?
I said, and the hair.
Looking good.
There's a whole lot of receding foreheads on. A lot of receding foreheads on this screen, but he had hair.
Listen, I'm holding on. I'm holding on.
The amazing thing about that was the fact that I quit the production after we went to San Francisco. After we left Los Angeles, we went to San Francisco, and to the dismay of Donald O'Connor, who stopped. I didn't tell him until the day of the performance that I was quitting. and I had accepted another job doing opera someplace. And Donald was always the last one to take his curtain call. Of course, the music's going. He stopped the standing ovation. And everybody was thinking, well, the cast was standing there and they said, what is he going to do now? He just shut up everybody, stopped the orchestra and everything else. And he said, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that I just found this out that this young man has been here with us during our whole run, and he's decided to leave us because he wants to go and do something called opera. And so, of course, he got a huge laugh from the orchestra, from the audience about it. And it was a shock to me because I could have gone to Broadway with it. Bruce Hubbard came in to be my replacement.
Wow.
He went on to Broadway with the show, and they did a wonderful job on the road. But there again, you know, I quit the Porgies when I needed to quit the Porgies to do something else. I quit the Showboat because I had opportunities to do something else, and I didn't want to, as they say in the business, get pigeonholed just doing those things. I was thankful for everything that I received, but you know, God has a way of opening doors that you thought you would never go into in the first place. And I've always lived by the mantra of Billy Preston has a wonderful thing, a wonderful song, Music is My Life, on his recording where he has all the keyboards around him and everything. And he used to saying, if it's for me, I will get it. If it's not, I'm not to blame because I'm using what God gave me. And of this, I am not ashamed. God promised to exalt me if I put him first. I may not be the best around, but I'm surely not the worst. So I've lived by that, and I said, that's what you got to live by, putting someone greater than you, who has more power than you. And these brothers, I'm so thankful that I have had these men in my life because they have brought enormous joy to me. Whenever we're hanging together, it is... I remembered when Gordon and Arthur and I were doing the Porgies in Bragant's. Some of the choruses says, well, how is it y'all get along so well? Y'all not supposed to like each other that much. And I said, well, you know, why wouldn't we? I mean, we're not competing against the job because we got it.
That's right. That's
so
right.
Why should we be mad with each other or, you know, trying to outdo the other or for whatever reasons? And we carried that throughout the two times. Actually, the first time we developed the first, and then we wound up doing it the second year as well. And we had to make a decision whether or not we were going to come back as a three, because if one of us had to quit, I guess the three of us had to decide, do we really want that money that badly?
That's right.
So we all came back again.
That's right.
So I want to take y'all back. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to take all four of you back to the year 1998. And that year was a turning point year in my life personally. I was finishing my third and final year at the Young Artist Program at Connecticut Opera with Willie Anthony Waters. And the last opera that they did in April of that year was Porgy and Bess. And they cast me as Jake. And for the first rehearsal, in comes Alvy Powell. And there were 4 performances in a row. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday matinee. And that man did all of them. And it was like they each one got even better than the one before, if that's even possible. And I remember you, Alvy, just being so kind and generous and with your time and with your advice and taking me to the side and saying, you know, when you do this part, this is what you need to think about. These are the types of knee pads that you need to tell the company to get for you. This is what you need to tell the folks to do for the cart when they push you around so that your knees don't work. And when you sing with this kind of soprano, you need to look out for these parts. And this is where you can, take the foot off the gas a little bit. And you were pouring that into me, and I was 23-ish years old. And I will never forget it. And then not 8 weeks later, I get to Bragan's, my first time out of America, and I walk in the room and I see the other three of you, along with George Shirley, and I mean, that was just outrageous. But I remember each of the three of you saying, "Come here, let me talk to you." And you gave me advice and you gave me encouragement. And it's something that I think is missing today, that it's not just mentorship, but it's just a free offering of love. It's a free offering of passing on what you've learned, what you've gained, and you all poured that into me. And it's been such a blessing to know that I can send you an email or pick up the phone and call you and ask you for advice or whatever. But that year, 1998, was a turning point in my life. And I've been able to carry that on for the last 20 some years. And I want to thank you all for that. You guys are heroes to me. You are icons to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
But when you really think about it, that's what we should do. That's the job of an artist. That's the job of an artist. And if you're talking about the history of us in the business, and if you want to shorten it and make it a bit smaller and say us, Black men in the business, this is what we have to do. This is what we should do. This is what we're meant to do. This is why we were given a gift.
Absolutely.
We were not given a gift so that it ends with us. We were given a gift so that it passes on and on and on. That's what we're supposed to do. And when you read the lives of all the people who came before us and all they suffered and all they had to go through in order to get us there, the generation before you, then it behooves us to get our butts out there and say, "Come here, young man, can I help you? Can I give you this? Can I give you that?" That's what we're supposed to do. That is part of our legacy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Gordon, man, before Corona snatched our lives away, we were in Harrisburg doing Porgy, and a prime example. Not only were you leading us by being a tremendous Porgy, but after the show, you grab me and Lester Lynch, and we go grab a beer and some wings and talk about Wagner. And and invite me to your home in Arizona to work on roles and stuff. Like, who does that? Like, it's just amazing.
I'm gonna pick up. We all do that. We all do that. I gotta say it. I'm gonna keep it real, right? There was a time that everybody, all the brothers and sisters, were concerned and consumed with the notion of who's going to be the one that breaks through. You know what I mean? Who's going to be the anointed one? Who's going to crack through the ceiling? And there was jockeying, and there was all sorts of stuff that happened, right? Because the system was the way that the system is. I think we all have enough mileage on us to understand that we're in charge of what happens to us, right? We don't have to wait for permission for somebody to give us an opportunity to excel. All we need is some validation. There's some validation on this screen. We all know George Shirley. We all know Todd Duncan. We all know Sylvia Lee. All we need is talent, validation, and the desire to work your tail off and not expect anything in return. Work your tail off. If you have those things going, then I think you get as far as you can get with it. And that's the best that you can do.
Amen.
Just do your best, make your mark, and don't worry about all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But we need that validation. Kenneth, I'm very honored to validate you. Just like getting that validation from Brother Donnie Ray, getting that validation from Brother Arthur Woodley when we were in the canteen and we both started talking about Johnny Hartman at the same time. Talking, Alvy and me talking to George Shirley about the same. This is, I mean, you talk about 6 degrees of separation. There ain't but 2 here.
Right.
There ain't but 2 at the most, maybe, if it's that. Yeah. That's a remarkable thing that these people from different parts of everything come together this quickly and have these sorts of ties. That to me is an amazing thing. Particularly to put the final top on, particularly when in order to excel in this business, you have to leave home. You have to leave the familiar. You can't excel and just stay in your community. You can return to it, you can live in it, and really to excel in business, you got to leave. You got to go beyond your comfort zone, and that can put you into some lonely places sometimes. That's a tough spot to be in, especially when you're the only one that looks like you.
Right.
Amen.
So I'm glad you touched on that. So how did you all handle being on the road so often and juggling family life and career and all the rest of it? How did you manage that, Alvy?
Well, I made a conscious decision that I was going to take a slightly different path by joining the Army. And so it limited my opportunities to sing as much opera as some of the other fellows here. But I did sing other operas. As you know, Kenny, we were in 2 other operas together.
Yes, sir. Butterfly and Turandot.
That's right. And so, you know, I made a conscious decision. I'll tell you like this. I'll be honest. I got on my knees a long time ago, and I asked my God, please help me, allow me to sing and to make a living at it. And I believe he said, okay. What he didn't say was what I would be singing. Okay. It may be a little opera. It may be a little of this. It may put me on the world stage. It did. I had no idea these things were going to happen for me, you know. So my path was a little different, but I have no regrets, you know. I went back, I left the Army for 8 years, got on the road, did some opera, sang in Europe, various other operas other than Porgy. And after 8 years, I was kind of burned out. I'll be honest with you, with the travel and all of that, just on the road the whole time. I bought a new house and didn't live in it for a year after I purchased it. I mean, didn't step foot in it because during the closing, I was in Europe during the closing, you know. So I made a conscious decision that, you know, I had a son that was 12 at the time when I went back in the Army, that I needed to be there for him. And I think it was the best decision for me. So that's how I did.
Amazing. What about you, Arthur? Because you've got daughters, right?
Yeah, 2 daughters, and the thing that sustained it and kept it going all the time was there was a point in my life in my 30s where nothing was coming. Nothing was coming in. And I was thoroughly disappointed. I was worried and all of those different things. And I said, I went to my wife, Maria, and I said, Maria, I think this is it. I think it's time to quit. I think it's time to let it all go. Get out of the business. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. Go back to school, get a degree in something. And that little woman said to me, she said, that is not your destiny. That is not what you're supposed to do. You are supposed to sing. And she said to me, she said, I ask only because you're a hard-headed fool. So she said, I'm just asking this, that you take the next 2 years and dedicate yourself to singing. I will do 2 jobs. I will do 3 jobs.
Wow.
But you dedicate yourself to that. And if at that time it doesn't work and it's not going straight, then you can leave and I'll say, I'll be with you and, I'll be with you all the way with that.
Wow.
But that's what happened. That's what that little woman did.
Wow.
Changed my life. And then it started to pick up.
Now,
I think
Uncle
we all
D-Ray,
know a little about the stress of not being able to find work sometimes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That can be very
Absolutely.
stressful.
Yes, Alvin.
Boy.
Now, Uncle D-Ray, I witnessed you do something that I thought was pretty amazing. And I'm sure all of you have done a version of it before. We were in Klagenfurt, Austria, doing a concert version of Porgy and Bess with Cynthia Hayman and Sabrina Carton. And there were 5 or 6 performances there. You sang a performance of Porgy, packed your stuff, flew to Prague, and sang Fanciulla del West, came back, did Porgy, and then had a nerve to fly to the United States of America to sing Elijah, come back to Austria to finish the run of Porgy. And you would never have known that you were doing all of that by the way that you sang, because it was glorious. How do you do that?
I always knew that Donnie Ray was not well. I always knew that. that brother's just not right.
Yeah, like really, like how do you do that? Do you remember doing that? Do you remember that?
Vaguely, because I've done some stupid stuff in my life, and flying from one part of the world. One of the worst things I did was I left San Francisco when I wasn't supposed to, scared to death, to go over and do a Francesca Zambello production in Lithuania. It was freezing cold, snowing when I arrived, and I didn't speak a lick of any language. I had already seen the video, did the video, walked into the rehearsal, did the video. The director didn't speak any English. He didn't speak any, he spoke some German. So I conversed with him in German to get and I said, listen, just let me do it and I'll show you what's going on. So I did the rehearsal with half the cast during the daytime. We did another rehearsal that night with an orchestra. And the next day we did the performance. When I walked out on stage the next day, we had another tenor singing. I didn't rehearse with that tenor. He walked off stage going one direction, and I said, different sound, different person. I was walking on stage, and it was one of those events. And then the next day I got up and flew back to San Francisco to cover what was I doing? Forza del Destino. Nobody knew I had left. I didn't tell anybody. I did it. That was a stupid thing to do. To do what I did in Austria, I actually didn't fly. We drove. They drove. They picked up. They got a car from me. He drove from Prague to Austria, and then drove me back. Yeah. So that was one of those other stupid things that I did because I was young and foolish. And when I was young and foolish and hungry, I did a lot of things that I should not have. But as Alvy did those 4 performances, I did 5 back to back in my day when I was 20 some years old. And I could do that because I made sure that I ate well and slept all the time and didn't open my mouth until it was time for me to sing. I was in fine vocal condition. I was surprised periodically by Uncle Bill showing up for a performance that I didn't know he was in the house until it was all over. And you know, those are things that you did when you were young and foolish. To piggyback on what Martha said about having an understanding spouse, I've had a woman, I've known this woman ever since I was in high school. I was introduced to her by her homeroom buddy, who was our quarterback. And that was over 51 years ago. We met in high school. She got her degree from Southern University and Stanford. And when we had children and I was constantly on the road, she stood by me and she took care of those kids and she fed them and she worked. And when I ran into a brick wall, like Arthur said, when that spell came and no work was coming in, I was in New York City in a hotel room. And I shall never forget just feeling, because I was with Shaw Concerts and Joel Block was about to kick me out of their rotation. I was about to lose my management. I felt I didn't know whether or not to jump or turn. And for some reason, my mind fell on Simon. Simon Estes was in town, at the Met, I believe. And I don't know why I had his number, but I called him and he said, come on up. So I went up to his apartment and I think we spoke all afternoon, talked about what he went through, talked about how he handled it, swallowing his pride, incident after incident, and dealing with whatever you have to deal with. And I was on the verge of just saying, screw all of this. I'm going back home, find something else to do, or go back to school, see what else I can do. I had a call from Houston regarding that very same showboat that you put on. And I didn't want to involve myself with another Black character and do another tour. But Simon put things into perspective for me, as Gordon and I have had to do for Morris Robinson and a couple of other people when we're talking about, well, I don't want to do this role because I think that this is going to happen or this might happen. Simon put a lot of things into perspective for me at that time because of the issues that were confronting him going into the Met at the time. And I swallowed and said, okay, this is something that I need to get involved with. At least it's putting bread on the table. And so, yes, I will do this tour. And actually out of that tour, certain other things began to happen and materialize. And that's why I wound up not going to Broadway. So I didn't really need it to gratify as a gratification tool to the next phase of my life. So yeah, we've all experienced some time in our lives when you hit that brick wall and you said, well, where do I go now, God? Tell me. Give me a clue.
Right.
Yeah, I had a woman in my corner and she's been very good. She's been understanding. She's been the breadwinner. And now that she's retired, it's time for me to put some of that.
I know that's right. Amazing. That's amazing. So, Alvy, you recently retired from the Army Chorus. Is that right?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Now, I had Priscilla Baskerville on a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I am free tired. Do you feel like you are free from the duties? Are you enjoying your time now? And what are you doing with it?
He's on that boat.
I am enjoying being partially retired. I've been doing some narrating for different festivals, and I have started to get more into that, into narrating, reading poetry at historical events.
Yeah.
So those things have happened, and I was doing quite well until the pandemic struck, and a little singing here and there. I don't have an agent, so I just get phone calls from time to time, and I'm enjoying life. You know, singing has been good to me. My retirement is comfortable, and I can say that as a singer. You know, like I said, I chose a different route. You know, and I'm very proud of the route that I chose. I'm okay with it.
Now, remember, one of those routes you said before we got on the air was
something
that.
Else, though.
Hold on. Before we forget, the route you said before we got on the air was that we were all coming on your boat. So just put that down. That we coming on your boat.
You got it.
All right.
Anytime, guys. Anytime. I'm going to show you a good time, and I might teach you how to fish. And then we'll take it back and eat it. That's the thing, eating it.
Now we got 100,000 witnesses, but go ahead. Tell us what you're gonna say.
Gentlemen?
No, one of the things I like, knowing three of these men. Arthur, I haven't had the opportunity to meet you, but I look forward to it. Okay. Donnie Ray, one of the things you did for me when I debuted. Okay, thank you. When I debuted in Dallas, you had another performance in Europe, I believe, but you sent your wife, and you made sure that your wife came and introduced herself to me afterwards. And I appreciated that so much. You know, that's support. That's the kind of support that we give each other, even when we can't be there.
Amazing. Well, you guys, I've had y'all here for 2 hours, and we lost Arthur. He sent me a note, said he had to run. But I wanted to ask you some fun questions before we get out of here. And
continue with those guys. I got to get a plug and plug my phone in. Go ahead. Keep going.
Go on, plug it in. Actually, since I got y'all here, since y'all two, how are you teaching in this COVID time? How are you both handling that?
Zooming.
You know, it's funny because Donnie and I have talked about this a lot, and with other colleagues that are teaching. I mean, we all are in the same boat as far as this remote teaching thing is concerned, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's an interesting thing that's happening. Other than one of the things I do with my students now is that I have them make audio video files.
Okay.
A week during the entire week leading up to their lesson. And I ask that they send me that file. And I use that audio video file to play back to them.
Yeah.
So they can actually see what they're doing. Because if usually on the one-to-one lessons, you sit in front of an undergrad, you tell them to do something, and they'll do it to the best of their abilities, and you ask them to tape it, and they'll tape it. But then once they get to the studio, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. There's something about playing the video back to them as they see themselves.
Yeah.
Which cuts through all the BS. I just put the video on, and I said, I'm gonna do a screen share. I want you to see what I see. And I'll put it on, and I won't say anything. And for the first minute, they're captivated with seeing themselves, and they're excited about all of that stuff. But then, after the fascination of seeing themselves on video wears off, and they actually hear what they're doing, and see what they're doing, then it gets real. So in that regard, the tool that I've learned from this remote teaching is it actually can be quite a good teaching tool if you incorporate it properly. And I think for me, the thing to do is, instead of trying to fix everything two-dimensionally, you play it back to them and go, here, this is what I see, and this is what people are seeing.
Right.
Now what do you see?
Gotcha. What about you, D-Ray? Were you acquainted with Zoom before all this happened, or is this new for you?
It's very new for me. When it all happened in March, we went to Facebook or FaceTime, as well as Skype. And I think I only did one Zoom faculty meeting, and that was about it. I have to get up with my brother's technology to start doing the videoing. I've been thinking about doing it for quite some time. Right now, my kids are scattered all over the place. I have one kid, one young lady, DMA, first year student in Korea. So I have to get up early in the morning, and she's a coloratura soprano, so she's in better shape than me. Being 11:30 at night, 8:30 in the morning. So, and one in California, one in Los Angeles. So they're spread out all over the place, and it was fascinating to see their predicaments happen. It was as the world crashed down upon them, as it did with all of us, and the places they had to go back to or be confined to, and not being able to do the same things as to come into my studio, have a time with me for an hour or half hour, whatever it was, and to have to do it in one place all the time was very confining to them. And I could see the mental stress on some of them.
Yeah.
It went along. So the only thing we had to do, we had to reevaluate how we taught, how you approach the situation. You can't be a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and everything else that they need. But you just try to be as supportive as possible.
Right.
Right. Gordon's very true, very right, because once they see themselves in a video situation or even hear themselves, you say, well, that's why I want you to record every lesson that you do, because I want you to see how you've either progressed or you're not progressing at all, in what is done during the course of the 16 weeks that you're in school. So it's been challenging to some degree, but every now and then you get that jewel, that comes along and you said, this is somebody and you can do something with this voice, or they can do something for themselves by really sticking to it. There are those students who really practice, and there are some students who just won't pay attention to it at all. So you deal with it as best you can.
That's how you do it. I hear that.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, I have some lightning round questions that I want to ask y'all to get the audience to know you a little bit better on a social level. So I want you to answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Feel free. So we'll start with Alvy, then to Gordon, then to D-Ray. So what is your favorite meal? Say, what you say? I can't hear you. I can't.
I think he said beef bourguignon.
I don't know. I can't hear you.
I'm trying to read lips. I ain't good.
Trying to.
Right?
Okay.
There you go.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. My favorite meal, probably beef brisket.
Beef brisket. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What you got on the side?
Beef
What you got on the
brisket,
side?
smoked salmon. What I got on the side? Hey man, whatever comes to me. Corn on the cob, baked potato. I'll even do collard greens if you got them. But I
What
have a
about you,
lot of
Don?
different meals. I love to eat, and I've eaten everywhere.
What about you, Donnie Ray?
My favorite, we had it yesterday, lamb with Brussels sprouts and broccoli.
Okay.
And
Okay.
some type of rice, basmati rice or something else that goes along with it.
What about you, Gordon?
Shit, invited me.
Is this my ideal meal or the meal that I eat most of the time?
Ideal.
I got to be back in Washington, D.C. at Chris Fields in Silver Spring eating soft shell crabs.
Oh, come on. She crab, the soft shell crab. I love it. So, other than classical music, what is your favorite type of music to listen to?
Jazz.
Jazz, okay.
Jazz blues for me.
Blues.
Okay. Jazz and blues. I love it. 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 Where in the world would you like to go that you have never been?
Wow.
I would say the islands.
I think we've all been a lot of places.
Exactly.
I've never been to the islands, so I would probably go to Jamaica or St. Thomas, St. Croix. I would have to go down there to see Arthur's home.
Yes.
Place, you know.
I think I'd go to Phuket. I think just that would be it. That would do it.
Alvy, I know you've been
Well,
everywhere.
I'm kind of simple. Key West because of the fishing.
Okay.
Key West because of the fishing. I've never been to Key West.
Now, where have you been in your performance career where you said, man, I don't ever want to come back here for whatever the reason?
In Ekaterinburg, Russia.
Why?
Did you hear me?
Russia? Yeah. Why?
Man, that's a long story. I'm telling you, don't want me to get into it, but Marquita and I were there at the same time. So ask her sometimes about it.
Okay.
I don't want to go back there. The pay was wonderful, okay? But, it's in the Siberian region, okay? But it was a different experience. I don't ever want to go back there.
Okay.
Is this the worst city or the worst experience?
I'll let somebody else chime in. No, look, the Russian chorus was wonderful. Those folk could sing. I mean,
yes.
And it was a concert, porgy and bess, okay? And they were some singing folk, the orchestra. It was the accommodations. It was everybody going after the American dollar. When I got to the airport, I'll just give you an example, okay? I needed to go from the national airport, leaving in Ekaterinburg, going back to Moscow. I needed to go from the national airport to the international airport, which was probably 6 miles, okay? And the cab driver, I think, found out I was American and charged me $120. Okay, it was that kind of thing. When I tried to get help in the airport in Moscow, all of a sudden, nobody wanted to help me. It moved me to the next person, and they weren't busy.
Right.
They'd be reading a magazine or something behind the desk, So I missed my flight, my connecting. It was just a horror story for me. And I just did not like the way that I was treated.
Gotcha.
That's just the truth of it. And I've been everywhere. I've never been treated like that.
You go, Donnie. I gotta think.
Yeah, it's tough to say because I've been in situations where I just I didn't feel as comfortable. Several of those places were here in America, and I don't want to name the city because I might be driving through it, and certain things might happen.
Going back.
That to the great Kenneth, I'm not trying to dodge you because some cities that I've gone to, I don't want to go back to, but they've been great professional experiences. And I've had some really good professional experiences in some horrible cities.
I'll take either one.
Mostly for me, it's an experience thing. Some of the experiences in certain, I had a pretty tough experience in Leipzig. I've had some pretty look. I've had some pretty tough experiences in New York City, to be honest with you. But I would never say that I wouldn't go back, because I think I have too much pride and I have too much talent to feel like I'm beaten down by something.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean,
Go to Russia, you might change your mind.
Yeah, I can't. Honestly, I can't think. I can't think of one that was like, oof.
I'll let you off. So, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would have probably gone into building construction because my grandfather was a carpenter, as was his brother, who was my minister when I was growing. He baptized most of my generation, but Uncle Anderson, my grandfather's brother, was about 5'6", and he could only build as high as he could reach. So it was, but my grandfather owned a lot of rent houses, and we were taught a craft, how to do electrical work and how to do interior work, redesign. So yeah, I would have gotten involved with something like that. Notwithstanding the doctor, you know. So I wasn't smart enough for that.
Alvy?
Oh, good.
Oh, same. As I told you, I had my first set of tools at 4 years old, and they were miniature real tools, you know, saws, hammers. I don't know where my father found them, but he was a carpenter, and that's what he expected me to do. The interesting thing is that I found out later in life that I have the eye for it, and I've done some construction work. I've put in flooring, I've put in cabinets, countertops, sinks. I've built sheds, and I started to do it, I think, when I was about 40 years old, and found out, hey, I can do this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably what I would have done. And I'm actually doing a lot of it now.
Gordon?
I'll be a cook, baby.
Oh, okay.
I'll be a chef. I cook.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it.
He stayed at the house, and he really can cook. He's a fantastic cook.
I love it. I mean, I'm a food is love. Food is love.
I'm still waiting on my invitation. When
you got it. You got it.
Okay. As soon as Corona releases us, I'm on my way.
Open it.
Who's your favorite composer to sing?
Oh my.
Well, I was gonna say Verdi, but there's sometimes he just kicks my ass. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Mahler.
Who?
Gustav Mahler.
Okay.
Yeah. European, I would say Brahms or Mahler, and American, I would say I fell in love with Robert Owens's music as an African American composer.
Yeah.
And the art songs that he did. He did do one opera called Kultur. But yeah, I love the way he wrote that, which was one of those songs that we did. If We Must Die was from the cycle In Memoriam to George Jackson. So yeah.
Yeah, I bought those after I heard you sing them. I called Glendower. He sent them to me.
Good. You would do very well. Plus Hailstork. Adult writes extremely well for the voice, and that set that he did for you, which you did earlier this year, I believe, with the Harlem group, and also he did a piece for me that you would also enjoy. All of you would probably enjoy this because it's not too high, it's not too low, and it's written for marimba and the baritone voice. There's three poems, biblical. It's a biblical. Behold, I build this house.
Wow.
Hail Stork.
I'm gonna write them and get those.
Yeah.
What about you, Alvy?
Rossini and Verdi, probably.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
If I can sound like Johnny Hartman, I would sing Johnny Hartman. But that's
Last question before I let y'all go, and I want to thank y'all again for coming on with me. When you arrive at the pearly gates, what would you like to hear God say?
Well done, thy good and faithful servant. I loved what one of your people said about 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. What our man said about being before God and having nothing else to offer.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yes.
That was, that's all.
Yeah.
Come and join our heavenly choir. Sing any genre and voice type that you want, because you don't have that human body to sing through anymore. So you can sing any note as high or as low as you want. There's
I know that's
nothing
right.
human to hold you back.
Gordon.
Come on in, baby. They're all waiting for you.
Hey, that's amazing. Amazing. Well, again, fellas, I want to thank you all for coming on, and thank you for your excellence and your brilliance and your generosity. And I wish you all the best. Stay healthy and safe, and stay in touch. Just thank you. Maya Angelou said that saying thank you to someone is the greatest thing that you can say, because thank you is what you say to God. So I thank all of you so much, and everybody out there. Join me next Monday for another Black Opera Live, when I have 2 couples on, because we're going to talk about the career when both spouses are full-time performers and parents. Like, how do they make that work? So we have Brian Major and his lovely wife, Michelle Johnson Major, and Pumsale Sojola and his lovely wife, Andrea Jones Sojola, next Monday at 7 p.m. So don't forget to tune in at 7. And gentlemen, don't sign off when we go off air. I just want to say thanks privately. And thank you so much, everybody out there. And we'll see you soon. Ciao.